Every great story is supposed to have a perfect ending. So why do the best shows always seem to ruin theirs? The Simpsons created some of the most brilliant comedy in television history, and now it's that show that'll just somehow still carry on in zombie form. Game of Thrones captivated the entire world for 6 seasons, then it crashed so hard that mentioning the finale still makes fans angry. You see this everywhere. Shows doing so well for such a long time and then failing because their very success creates some very high expectations. Sometimes it means dragging a story past its natural end because it's just so popular. Sometimes it means rushing towards a conclusion that can never satisfy the hype just because you want to reach the peak popularity moment. But 2 animated shows figured out how to escape this trap completely: Adventure Time and Avatar: The Last Airbender. So, what made the difference? How did they avoid the fate that claimed so many other great shows? Oh, and fair warning, we're going deep into both finales, so spoilers ahead for anyone who hasn't finished either show, though it's really been too long. If you haven't watched them by now at least a few times, shame on you. Like and subscribe. So, let's start with Adventure Time's approach, the discovery method. Adventure Time began as pure vibes. A boy named Finn, his shape-shifting dog Jake, and a candy kingdom filled with talking food and a mysterious world outside. No grand mythology, nor carefully plotted character arcs. Just, what if we made the weirdest thing possible and just launched into it? Early episodes prove this. In Slumber Party Panic, when Princess Bubblegum warns Finn about breaking a royal promise, his response is pure enthusiasm.
Heck yeah! If I break a royal promise, I get to fight zombies, throw slumber parties, awake Gumball Guardians.
And Trouble in Lumpy Space has Finn jumping through cloud space to cure Jake's lumps at something called Prom Coming. The show was just doing whatever felt fun and random in the moment and backing it up with great plot and narrativization. Only later did they decide that OO was post-apocalyptic and add in more details and flesh out the plot and the development. Business Time was introducing frozen businessmen from before some ancient war, but then that backstory came in the season after they'd already established the Candy Kingdom and the Ice Kingdom, and then more and more plot elements build the grander narrative. But when Adventure Time gets interesting is when the writers start asking the questions about the world. Why is Ice King obsessed with kidnapping princesses? Why are there no other humans besides Finn? These weren't the only questions they didn't have answers for when they began the series. Obviously, a lot had to be written along the way. They discovered the answers while making the show, and each season they'd dig deeper into mysteries that they'd accidentally created, or write more plot points that interacted with each other in creative ways. Characters who started as simple jokes became complex figures with tragic backstories. I Remember You wasn't planned from episode 1. It came out organically as the writers explored Ice King's character and realized there might be something deeper there. In Holly Jolly Secrets, we learn Ice King's real name is Simon Petrikov, an antiquarian who found a cursed crown and gained powers but went mad. Through his video diary, we hear Simon documenting his transformation.
As you can see, my skin is beginning to turn blue. My body temperature has been lowering at a supernatural rate to what is now about 30 degrees Celsius.
And in I Remember You, they dug even deeper into Simon's tragedy. Through handwritten notes to young Marceline, we discover Simon was fully aware he was losing himself as it was happening.
This magic keeps me alive, but it's making me crazy. Please forgive me for whatever I do when I don't remember you.
The episode revealed Simon as Marceline's father figure after the Mushroom War, caring for her while slowly forgetting who he was, all the time drip-feeding us lore and depth and character development in the background, in the foreground, in the context, and in the conversation. The reveal about all of these different elements feels like stumbling on profound things because it all evolves naturally. The writers build the mythology piece by piece, following their curiosity about a character and the setup that they actually created, rather than creating it all from the beginning to be one specific way. This discovery approach gave Adventure Time that genuine surprise factor, some things that most shows really struggle with over time. We'd already learned about Simon's tragic transformation from The Crown in Holly Jolly Secrets and in I Remember You, but when Simon and Marcy aired, it took that backstory even deeper and hit like a truck, at least for me. Simon protects young Marceline in the post-apocalyptic wasteland, singing the Cheers theme song to keep his sanity while the world burns around them. The Cheers song actually is a recurring theme in this show. The episode works because it earned that emotional punch through unexpected depth, revealing a heartbreaking history that had been hinted at but never fully explored before. And we slurp it all up as we get those juicy details. And instead of front-loading all that exposition, Adventure Time spreads that magic throughout the series. Show, don't just tell. You'll stumble onto profound moments in random episodes, like a throwaway line about Marceline's past, or items in the background. This keeps viewers genuinely engaged because they never know when they'll discover something that recontextualizes everything they thought they knew about a character. If you were watching an episode and you saw something in the background that made you completely rethink what was going on, let us know down below. But the discovery method comes with real downsides. Adventure Time becomes incredibly difficult to recommend to new viewers if you kind of just drop them in the middle and don't know the context. You can't just say, watch these 5 episodes and you'll get it. There are entire fan-made lists of essential Adventure Time episodes just floating around online to figure out which episodes do you really need to understand the majority of the context. The best moments are scattered across 10 seasons. It's buried between episodes about Finn's weird dreams or Jake turning into a brick. Sometimes some episodes are worse, some are better, and certain moments during different episodes are better or worse, but all of it is good. I mean, I recommend watching the whole show front to back. It's not too long. But the inconsistency, it's both a feature and a bug. Some episodes are profound explorations of trauma and identity, and others are just 20 minutes of pure nonsense that, we love anyway. This creates a show that's deeply rewarding for dedicated viewers, but a bit harder to casually enjoy. Despite these problems, though, Adventure Time managed something that The Simpsons couldn't. Adventure Time ran for 284 episodes across 10 seasons, but it never went overboard. It never lasted too long or feel bloated like The Simpsons. The difference was the mindset and the creation process. Instead of asking, how do we keep this going and how to milk it dry, the creators kept asking, what story are we telling and what does it need? When they reached the natural end of Finn's coming-of-age story and the ultimate fight, they stopped and they realized this is a good point. Come Along With Me wrapped up the threads that they'd been following, gave closure to the characters that they and we had grown to love, and ended when the story demanded it. That's why Adventure Time never became a zombie version of itself. The creators prioritized the story completion and the plot development over the long-term profit over extending the show. Even when the show was successful enough to run indefinitely, it is good that shows end. It makes experiencing it while it happens all the more worthwhile. Now let's look at the complete opposite approach. Avatar: The Last Airbender and the planning method. Avatar's creators knew exactly where they were going to go before they wrote the very first episode. The show had a clear endpoint in mind. Aang must defeat Fire Lord Ozai before Sozin's comet arrives and gives the Fire Nation enough power to burn down the world. That was always the end goal here.
Sozin's comet will return by the end of this summer, and Fire Lord Ozai will use its power to finish the war once and for all.
They structured the entire series around this countdown and around their final moment, each book bringing Aang closer to his final confrontation while also teaching him what he needs to win and also how to develop as a person. The best example of this planning method is in Zuko's redemption arc, a character journey that spans 61 episodes across the entire series. For the very first episode, Zuko is hunting the Avatar to restore his honor. But the writers already knew where this was heading. Zuko would eventually join Aang and teach him firebending. Every scene with Uncle Iroh, every moment of internal conflict was building toward that inevitable turn. The arc even includes a deliberate backslide. In the Crossroads of Destiny, just when you think Zuko might choose good, he betrays Iroh and sides with Azula. The moment works so well because it raises the stakes for when he finally does make the right choice, and it shows that people can often slide back. And when Zuko finally joins Team Avatar in Book 3, it feels more earned because it took 55 episodes of careful setup and character development to get there. This approach gave Avatar something Game of Thrones didn't achieve. Every scene serves multiple purposes, everything is planned to be perfect, including the ending. Take the lion turtle that appears in the finale to teach Aang energy bending. Most viewers think that it just comes out of nowhere, but the lion turtle was subtly foreshadowed throughout the entire series, like in the library or in Piandao's castle. The same thing happens with Toph's metal bending. In The Guru, she's trapped in a metal cage and struggling to escape. She eventually realizes that she can sense the Earth particles within the metal itself, and what looks like a random problem-solving moment, and one of the coolest moments in the entire show where Toph is the biggest badass on Earth, is actually foreshadowing for one of the series' biggest revelations. Because everything is generically planned in advance, there are no filler episodes here. Every episode means something in the larger context, and then the details are filled in. Every single episode has to justify its existence within the larger story. Whether or not you think each episode does that to your exact standards is another thing. I just love the series as a whole. When you rewatch Avatar, you'll notice details that seem insignificant but were actually crucial setup for later payoffs. It's fun to watch the earlier episodes and see references. So this creates a viewing experience where nothing feels wasted, everything feels connected, everything clicks into place. But this tight plotting also comes with a cost. Avatar had much less room for experimentation than Adventure Time. You can't just decide, let's have Aang turn into a koala bear for 20 minutes, because that'll affect a lot of other things. Everything needs to connect back to Aang mastering the Avatar state, Zuko finding his path, or the war against the Fire Nation. Not much room for any filler content here. And that structure creates incredible payoffs and a lot of swift development through the characters and through the plot and through the scenes. But it also limits the kind of creative freedom to insert random things that made Adventure Time's best episodes so special. But despite these limitations, Avatar made the crucial choice that saved it from the Simpsons trap. The story was complete. After Book 3, it ended. Aang mastered the Avatar state and ended the 100-Year War. Zuko became the Fire Lord and found his redemption. Yes, there are comics that continue this story as well as The Legend of Korra, but the original creators stopped the main series exactly when the story demanded it. They didn't stretch Aang's story into adulthood or create new conflicts to justify more seasons. Obviously, they could never keep the property buried forever because it's just too good, but the Avatar original series stands as is, a beginning and an end. So, which method actually works better? The truth is, they're solving completely different problems. Avatar built its story from a blueprint. Every major moment was designed to pay off something established earlier on. When Zuko joins the group, it satisfies the expectations that the writers had been building for 55 episodes. This creates incredible satisfaction because you get exactly what the story promised in a deep and emotional way. But Adventure Time followed the vibes towards random surprises wherever it led the writers sometimes. When we learn about Simon and Marceline's history, everything we thought we knew about both characters is wrong, and sometimes not everything was hinted at. And when the show ends with Come Along With Me, it's memorable because it's completely unique and they develop it as a purposeful plotline, a 44-minute fever dream that somehow wraps up a decade of storytelling while maintaining the show's chaotic spirit. Meanwhile, Avatar follows a traditional 3-act structure scaled across 3 seasons with clear progression from setup to resolution as a pre-built, mapped, developed plot. While Adventure Time treats structure like a suggestion, one episode can be surreal nightmares followed by simple comedy adventures, all existing in the same universe and fitting together. So, here's what Avatar and Adventure Time actually teaches us about ending stories well. Shows like The Simpsons, SpongeBob, and Family Guy made the business decision. They prioritize profit over story completion, stretching successful formulas until they broke, until they were no longer stories that finished and ended, and developed characters over time. Avatar and Adventure Time made the creative decision. They prioritized finishing their stories over milking their success until it went bad. Even when both shows were definitely popular enough to run indefinitely, the creators chose completion over continuation. Despite their completely different methods, both shows did 3 crucial things right. First, they knew where they were going. They knew their endpoint. Avatar planned theirs from day 1 with Aang's confrontation against Ozai. Adventure Time had a generic ending in mind, but they discovered theirs over 10 seasons of character development. And they recognized it when Finn's coming-of-age story finally reached its natural conclusion and brought all the threads together. Second, they both had the courage to stop. This might be the hardest part. When something is successful, every instinct just tells you to keep going and keep pushing and making it better and longer. But both shows resisted that pressure. Finally, they left audiences wanting more in the right way, satisfied with what we got, and also curious about what might come next in a few years or down the line. And that's the difference between ending a story and just stopping production because you reached a point where something's not popular anymore. I think I know what my preference is, and it resulted in two of the best animated shows of all time. Let us know what your favorite character development plot is, and let us know what other shows you want us to cover. And if you want to see how Adventure Time's creativity-first approach compares to Disney's franchise-building strategy, check out our deep dive on Adventure Time versus Disney. Because while we've been talking about how to end stories right, Disney represents a completely different way of thinking about how long entertainment should last.